problem. Thank you. All right.
Hello, everybody. Hello. Hi, everybody. Welcome. Thank you all for coming out tonight. My name is Ellen, and I work at Americans for Democracy and Human Rights in Bahrain. We are very excited to be co-sponsoring this event tonight with SplitThisRock and Busboys and Poets. And I have to say thank you very much to SplitThisRock for helping us with all of the organizing and for lining up all of the poets tonight. So thank you again. Woo! Okay, tonight we are here to protest restrictions on free and artistic expression in the Middle East and North Africa. We're also here to celebrate free and artistic expression in that region and here at home. Specifically, we're honoring the Qatari poet Mohammed Al-Ajami, who is currently serving a 15-year prison sentence in Qatar for his poetry. He was arrested on November 16th, 2011 for his poems. What authorities took offense at were a couple of lines in some of his poems, one of which said, "We are all Tunisia in the face of the repressive elite." And in another poem, he had made several references to the Emir of Qatar, and it is actually against Qatari law to insult the Emir. So he was charged with inciting to overthrow the regime through his poetry and also insulting the Emir. After he was arrested, he was held for over a year in the lead up to his trial, and eventually he was sentenced to life imprisonment in November 2012. He appealed that decision, and the sentence was later reduced to 15 years imprisonment. This was upheld in October of 2013, and today the only way that he can be free is from a pardon from the Emir. In 2014, he was able to recite a poem in prison, and that was recorded, and actually our first poet tonight is going to be reading that poem for you. So our first poet tonight is going to be Zein El-Amine. Zein grew up in Lebanon, but he now lives here in Washington, D.C. He has an MFA in poetry from the University of Maryland, where he also teaches Arabic language and culture classes. He's had his poems published in a variety of publications, including Foreign Policy, In Focus, and DC Poets Against the War. He's also had short stories published in several magazines, including a story of his imprisonment in Bahrain, which was published in Middle East Report. And he will also have several poems published in an upcoming eco-justice anthology called Ghost Fishing. So if you would all join me in welcoming Zein.
Good evening, everybody. I'm going to untangle my glasses from my scarf here. As was mentioned, I'm going to be reading the poem that was snuck out of prison for Mohammed Al-Ajami, and not the poem that he actually got in prison for. And when both poems were sent to me, I noticed that the poem that was snuck out of prison was actually much sharper than the poem that he got in trouble for, which was some very basic criticism, as was mentioned. And what is sad about all of this, and something that we can use to sway the Qatari government, is that that's the home of Al Jazeera, which claims to have provided free speech and democracy, a venue for democracy throughout the Middle East. And this is the height of hypocrisy, that these words have insulted the Emir, and therefore Mohammed Al-Ajami has to be sentenced to 15 years in jail. But having said that, you know, I think jail only sharpened his words, as it sharpened Malcolm X's words, as it sharpened many poets and writers and many activists' words. And this is also a personal thing for me, as I come out of that tradition. My grandfather, he came from a village called Derkifa in South Lebanon, And during the Ottoman Empire, during the rule of the Ottoman Empire, he basically was asked by the Ottomans to collect taxes. And but he was such a softie that every time he went to collect taxes, he would drop a couple of families off of the roster because they would say, we're suffering, etc. And then when the Ottomans realized that the roster has dropped by a third, they put him in jail. And in jail, he was a poet, and in jail he wrote a poem, and that poem has been copied and framed and placed in all of the homes. To this day, we have that poem framed in our house. And also, I'm happy to be in the company of Americans for Democracy and Human Rights in Bahrain. I only found out that they exist recently, and this makes it even more personal for me as I was imprisoned in Bahrain and almost executed. If you want to read the story, if you go to the Facebook page that for this event, it was posted on the Facebook page, and the story was in Middle East Report, and you can that was an incident that happened in 1982. So I'm happy you guys are here. You guys are doing such important work because what's happening in Bahrain is being hidden and covered right now, even though the struggle from 2012 till now still continues till today. I will read Mohammed Ajami's poem, the one that was snuck out of jail. I'll read it in Arabic first, and then I'll read it in English. Oh, this thing does go. Okay. So I'll read it in Arabic first, and just so you can appreciate the cadence, and hopefully I'll do it right. هام فيك العقل أم هام فؤادي يا بلاد العرب يا دار الأعادي إن ملكت العقل قانونا وفكرا باحترامي الرأي ملكت فؤادي من أنا لا تسأل الأيام عني ما أنا إلا سجين انفرادي في بلادي يسلب الأحجاف حقي في بلادي حقق الجهل اعتقادي في بلادي لم يعد للشعب صوت كي يهجي مفردات الانتقاد يا بلادي إن يكن للبعد عذرا صغت عذرا كلما طال بعادي اخبري أبنائك شرقا وغربا ريثما يشدو على الأغصان شادي إن شعبا دون رأي ليس إلا كقطيع هائما في كل وادي جاهدوا بالرأي إن الرأي كان كامتطاء الخيل أو نقل العتاد عند سلطان سعى بالأمر جورا أو جد الصمت له عذر التمادي اخبريهم أنني كنت فريدا في انتصاري وانكساري وعنادي صاغني وقتي بإذلال ولكن لم أكن للوقت سهل الانقياد سيدي الأوباشي لو ملكت أمرا كعروش السوء من قوم ابن عادي التي في الوحي قال الله عنها حين قال إرم ذات العماد لم تكن في الأرض صديقا نبيا إذا تكلمت صغيرا في المهادي قد جرحت الحق زورا كبرياء العهد في ثوب الحداد كيف ترجو طاعة تدعو للذنب إن أطعناك فصحقا للمبادئ هل نصلي فرضنا حين نصلي للعباد أم إلى رب العباد في امتهان الظلم فرم للمكارم في انتهاج العدل درء للفساد من يكن للناس تضليلا وشرا لم يكن للناس يوم خير هادي بعدائي ربما أهديك مجدا أن يكن للمجد تاريخ حيادي فابتئس لسنا أعداء بتاتا فالعداء كان عداء أحادي لا أعادي غير من كان جديرا بعدائي عندما فعلا أعادي اسألي ما كثر الأيام فخرا كلما نادى إلى الفخر المنادي حينما استرجع التاريخ كانت هناك كنت سجينا في بلادي حينما وثقت بالقيد يدي وثق التاريخ بالنصر اعتدادي إن ذل القيد دون المجد العزاء للأيادي قبل أصحاب الأيادي أيها الأبواب والسجان لطفا أيقظوني كلما زاد رقادي ليس شوقا إنما خوفا لكي لا تنظر الأعداء ضعفي في رقادي رغم أني لم أعد أدري بحال هل غفت عياني أن طال سهادي. Okay, now I'll read the same poem in English, a poem from prison, so I don't think it's titled. Is it my mind or my heart that I've lost to you, Arab lands, home of enemies? If you held our minds with law and reason, if you respected our opinions, then you would have held my heart as well. Who am I? Don't ask the days about me. I'm nothing but a prisoner in an isolation cell. Here's my country. Oppression is what takes our rights away. Here ignorance determines our convictions. Here the people no longer have a voice, cannot spell out the language of reproach. My country, if insight required an apology, I'd never stop apologizing. Tell your children east and west and keep telling them until the birds sing it in the branches, that a people without opinions is nothing but a herd that's thirsty yet blind to the nearby oasis. Fight for your convictions. This is how you ride your steeds and bear your arms against the ruler who seeks to oppress and who molds your silence into a pretext for injustice. Tell them that I, stubborn, persistent, was unmatched in my victory and my defeat. Time may have disgraced me, but I haven't been easy for time to shackle. Lord of rabble, what of yours compares to the thrones of Ibn Ad's people in Iran, the city of pillars, which God spoke of in his revelations? You've been insincere, a false prophet on earth, though you, like Jesus, spoke in the crib. You've winded the truth and my proud allegiance to lifeless now, and clad in black, how can you expect obedience when you call for injustice? If we obeyed you, then what would become of our principles? When we pray, who do we pray to? To God or to God's servants? There's no room for virtue under oppression. There's no room for vice on the road to justice. Whoever wrongs and deceives his people will never be able to guide them. If history were objective, it would tell how you've sought glory in my so-called enmity. Go ahead and be miserable. Though you and I are not enemies, I avoid enmity and make enemies only of those who are truly worthy. If you ask after my finest day, on an occasion when words of pride are called for, I'd call history to mind and say, it was when I was a prisoner in my own country, for when you shackled my wrists, history gave me strength and confidence in victory. These disgraceful chains are power in my hands, not power for those who lord over it. Doors and guards, Wake me up gently whenever I sleep too long. It is not desire but fear that makes me ask this. Fear that the enemies will see my weakness when I sleep, though I no longer know if my eyes are closed or if I've been awake all this time. I hope this poem will be recited all over the world, you know, on occasions like this. They'll never know what hit them.
There's some seats. These seats here are free.
So I'll end with my with one of my own poems, and it's a poem about Surab Shara, who did 10 years in solitary confinement for shooting a mercenary general in Lebanon that was working for the Israeli occupation during the Israeli occupation of southern Lebanon. And Surab Shara was a political prisoner for that decade, and she was in solitary confinement for all those years. And I had the pleasure of interviewing her and spending the day with her. The interview was supposed to last half an hour, and I ended up spending the day with her, talking about her. And one of the things she did, talking about sneaking poems out of prison, besides making art out of the yarn and the sweaters that she had in the prison, because they weren't allowed to make art or anything like that, was to tear apart the plies for toilet paper and write epic poems on it. She wasn't a poet by training, but writing poems that had meter and rhyme allowed her to pass that time, you know. And she talked to me about her daily routine, and part of that daily routine was writing those poems. And she says, I'm a really bad poet, but believe me, composing those poems, those epic poems, and she showed me scrolls and scrolls of these poems, is what helped me pass the time quickly. So, and also the poem is based on instructions by Pablo Neruda, another poet whose words were so sharp that the dictatorship in Chile tried to execute him and tried to poison him. And now there's information that they probably succeeded at poisoning him. But another dangerous poet too. It ends with Pablo Neruda's words about the winding night, because he wrote a poem about how to write poetry, and it's the only poem about instructions how to write poetry that I like. And so it's both those things converge: the political prisoner and the dangerous poet in this poem. How to write a poem according to Surab Shara. Sit in their circle. Don't let your eyes linger on the object in the room. Extract yourself from your body. Watch the man with the hairy hands describe the rape of the body to the body. Watch him as he begins to beat the body. Focus on the arc of your liberated lower molar and make it everything. Try to guess where it landed, crawl to it, find it, save it for later. Think about putting it back in one day. Ignore the wheeling of the cart. Ignore the stripped cable dangling above you. Find the tooth. Make solitary confinement your longed-for solitude. Climb the walls. Press your palms on one wall, fingers pointed to the ceiling. Press your feet against another wall. Build the pressure. Step up with one foot and up with one hand. Repeat until your back is to the ceiling. Now survey the room. Do this once at mid-morning and once at mid-afternoon. Do this for a decade. Make the crack under your door your world. Lie down and face the door. Look past the roaches, the fleas, and the lice into the compressed light. Wait for it to be interrupted. Study the souls of your captors. Match the voices with the souls. Match the souls with the names. Catalog them. The pigeon code. the limping souls, the canvas ones, the wooden ones, delight at new souls. Now find a piece of graphite, separate your toilet paper into pies, stretch your scroll on the floor, prostrate yourself. Grab the graphite between thumb and forefinger. It will feel crippling at first. Your words will be undecipherable, but you will eventually write your tiny words with smooth curves. Set your intentions. Don't think of meanings. Think of the time it will take to write your microscopic epic. After all, this is about time, not about metaphors or similes or such. It's about rhyme and meter. So limit hope to the word, then extend it to the line, then to the stanza, then reach out for the winding light. Now write your first faint line.
Thank you, Zein. Next up is Joseph Ross. Joseph is a local poet. He's the author of 3 books of poetry, including Gospel of Dust, Meeting Bone Man, and the forthcoming book, Ape, which will be released in 2017. His poems have been published in numerous publications, and he has received several Pushcart Prize nominations, as well as won the 2012 Pratt Library of Little Patuxent Review Poetry Prize. He was also recently the 23rd Poet in Residence for the Howard County Poetry and Literature Society in Maryland, and he currently teaches at Gonzaga College High School here in Washington, D.C. So please join me in welcoming Joseph Ross.
Thank you very much, and thank you for inviting me. I'm glad to begin to learn about ADHRB, and I'm a great fan, of course, of SplitThisRock, and I'm grateful to share some poems with you all tonight. I haven't written a lot about the Middle East, but I thought maybe some poems about others who have faced down power in one way or another might be a way to honor this poet tonight. Nelson Mandela burns his passbook, 1952. You had to carry a passbook in your own country, which meant, of course, it wasn't. Except that you refused that meaning, it being too false to fit into your pocket, too insulting to press against your persistent skin. But you were over the legal 16 years of age, old enough to know just where this country, just whose this country is not. When you burned your passbook, you knelt down in good shoes, a dress shirt buttoned to the neck. You lit the passbook and held it above a cooking kettle. You thought you might eat its ashes for dinner. The blue flame, timing and cautious at first, crawled up the paper like a well-dressed thief, about to steal what is already his. Nelson Mandela speaks to Trayvon Martin. I walked down Fox Street in Johannesburg at dawn. A light rain darkens my shoes. They scrape against the small stones. I'm standing in the doorway when I see you across the street on the corner, looking at me. You wear no hood today. You smile and walk toward me. I smile and wait for you. The day begins here. Coffee and tea stands push back their canvas covers. A whistle sings from the train station. Your arms swing at your sides like only a teenage boy's arms can swing. You look like you might open your mouth to sing. There is no SUV in sight. I am not sure how to greet you, so I look at your wet grass-stained shoes, then back at your 17-year-old face. I say, come in, get out of the rain. This poem is called What Can Be Said. It's for a former student of mine, Miles, and it tells this story. What can be said for Miles? What can be said of the white cop who spat on my black student in the 2 a.m. silence beside Highway 270? Did the vigilant oak slip steel into your blood? Did you think the stars could not see in the dark? Did you imagine darkness has no conscience, would not speak up? And what of my student, this young man lying on the ground behind a car, trembling amid the 2 a.m. choir of seizure and panic? That his shivering asthma scared you so much you couldn't breathe? Bitch, the only word to dance off your tongue? Spit, the only language you would speak? Let me finish with this. Last year of his life, John Coltrane wrote a song called On Reverend King. And so this is on John Coltrane's Reverend King. The tenor sax sings the concrete of Auburn Avenue, grandparents' front porch. It whispers Morehouse and tries to read music it hasn't learned yet. It gathers into a man's voice to chant Boston. Here, the sax weaves a love song, falling over itself for a rhythm that could carry it, outlive it. It deepens and moves south to a Montgomery of empty buses, kitchen prayers, bombs threatened and real. Then drums rise to an angry Birmingham. The verses hum, jailed, their tunes are letters, grace notes, staccato, police batons slice the air like the conductors of an insane choir. Coltrane's breath rushes through the saxophone now. The tune terrors in Vietnam. It prays scared in Selma. Its notes are water hoses, dog teeth, indifference. It sings symphony in Washington, chaos in Chicago. 1963 was cool to this melody, this unfinished lunch counter where 4 little girls sit side by side and eat nothing. So finally he puts down the sax as it fills with tears, unplayable. He takes up the bass clarinet because it sounds more like fury, more like staring down a president. This song knows harmony. It is a choir called Watts. It sings riot in a new tongue, the language of the unheard. This song swirls now. It fills the world house with a straight-spined melody. This tune sings garbage men who are men. This rhythm has walked to a mountaintop. It tastes like a promise, so it clears its throat and soars, singing Memphis.
Thank you, Joseph. Next up is Rasha Abdulhadi. Rasha grew up between Damascus and rural Georgia, and she worked as an organizer in Chicago and Atlanta, but today she lives in Maryland. She has worked as a cultural worker, educator, and community technologist in the past, and is a member of Alternate Roots and the Radius of Arab American Writers. Her work has appeared in Mizna, SittersCreek.com, and will appear in an upcoming anthology on Arab American aesthetics. So if you could join me in welcoming Rasha Abdulhadi.
Thank you. And thank you to SplitThisRock and folks for inviting me to be a part of this event. As I think about honoring a poet who has been imprisoned unfairly for dissent, and as I think about what democracy means, I think it's important for us not to forget the context of democracy here at home. And it's important for us not to forget that the organizers of Black Lives Matter are being tracked by the FBI. It's important not to forget that people like Rasmia Odeh are being targeted for deportation as a result of a confession given under torture many decades ago. And where she'll be deported to is not even clear. So I want to offer this. Many of my poems I think I'll offer in the spirit of thinking about what democracy and advocacy for democracy and dissent mean here. Of peace and dragonflies. If the robotic dragonflies keep multiplying, we will never have peace. Just this week, another one crashed in the desert. We are unlucky, they are lucky it did not crash into the farm fields or homes near the desert. Because remember, children, the desert ends, and there are people who live there. If this deadening peace continues, the dragonflies will become bees, and the bees become fleas, and we will all be picking off the ticks of surveillance. Or, once bit, we'll get resigned like someone with Lyme disease to the harrowing spiral cahiers of symptoms. We'll ignore the corkscrew that is boring into our knees, into our every communication with the ones we love. Once the dragonfly lands in my hand, it becomes my phone, and I'm lost. I've lost dike, dam, and levee to the global flood of positions. I've given away the patent of myself in 100 casual end-user agreements. After I click yes, there will be peace at last and no more pop-ups. Then I can call my mother to confess I love her. Then I can upload the post-plus picture, the perfect quipture that will waterfall hearts and minds, and then we'll all know true peace. But first, the app needs my location. Once the last peace treaty is signed, there will be no more land to light on, and only the dragonfly will be waved through at the Rasha crossing. There will be no children to chase the bees and birds with nets or pebbles, and no more houses that were so hard to see through without infrared they will be rubble. And I wonder then, will the dragonfly finally lose its eyes when we are gone, 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 and there's no one left to smile anymore? I'm going to read a poem that's not by me. This is by Lisa Saheb-Majaj. That's right. As someone who grew up both Palestinian and Southerner, I think it, and I won't be the only person here talking about that tonight, but I think the question of how to negotiate identity and belonging after the Patriot Act is one that Lisa answers. It's called Guidelines. If they ask what you are, say Arab. If they flinch, don't react. Just remember your great aunt's eyes. If they ask where you come from, say Toledo, Detroit, Mission Viejo, Falls Springs, Topeka. If they seem confused, help them locate these places on a map. Then inquire casually, where are you from? Have you been there long? Do you like this country? If they ask what you eat, don't dissemble. If garlic is your secret friend, admit it. Likewise, crab cakes. If they say you're not American, don't pull out your personal wallet-sized flag. Instead, recall the Bill of Rights. Mention the Constitution, wear democracy like a favorite garment, comfortable and intimate. If they wave newspapers in your face and shout, stay calm. Remember everything they never learned. Offer to take them to the library. If they ask you if you're white, say it depends. Say no, say maybe. If appropriate, inquire, have you always been white? Or is it recent? If you take to the streets and protest, link hands with whomever is beside you. Keep your eye on the colonizer's map, geography's twisted strands, the many colors of struggle. No matter how far you've come, remember, the starting line is always closer than you think. If they ask how long you plan to stay, say forever. Console them if they seem upset. Say, don't worry, you'll get used to it. Say, we live here. How about you? Lest we think Palestine is just a place or something made up. Is Palestine everywhere? In every arrest of a black man, woman, or child in Atlanta, in every neighborhood of DC plowed under as people from the nations of the earth move here, in every stolen public dollar belonging to the people of Detroit, in every drop of water from the D-Day Nation used to pump the coal slush that lights up Las Vegas, in every deportation detention center, at every checkpoint and traffic stop. In all the land that disappears from beneath the feet of farmers in Chicago, in rural Illinois, in the streets of Baltimore, where young people held rocks against riot gear and rubber-slicked bullets, in all the young Americans wrapped in uniforms that go off to fight and come back wrapped in flags. I read Palestine when the news says Egypt, Syria, Yemen, Iraq, Bahrain, Qatari. I step around the bodies as I cross train platforms and count them on the way to work. Baba, you said that wherever you lived was home, that there was no such thing as where you came from. But Baba, Your home followed you everywhere. The hands that pushed you out of olive groves and orange orchards have been pushing at the corners of every place I've ever lived. And these days, it seems to be that I can't call any place home until I can find this thing called where you came from. I have one more poem that is also not by me. This is by an excellent poet, Ahinsa Timothea Badan, who has a mixture of heritages, including indigenous Moroccan, and writes a lot about the American experience. This is called Mint. I think this poem also fits in a long tradition of Arab writers writing about dissent and hiding it within poems and smuggling words in plain sight. Prune mint. A large quantity will grow back, uproot it. Some of it will manage to keep a root hold and return. Put some in water, new roots will come forth. You can plant it almost everywhere, and it will flourish. None of our worries are what they seem. You did not want this way to be wise. If only the lessons could come more slowly, more easily, with less or more calm. Who knew we'd be elders at 25? We've all been weeds, known the pull of a farmer's hand, and each of us is indigenous somewhere. Somewhere, sometimes the graft has taken hold. We have taken their money. It feels like any other drug, limb, necessity. Is breathing possible without guilds, bills? As if we all come from someplace singular without cousins or long winters, bins. Where I am from is not only a desert, other climes, the microbes of the bay, all of our views are poisoned. This ledge, Lebanese of green, overlooking Dolores, the old mission, cemetery of my ancestors, moved now to Buena Vista, headstones, steps for white people to walk on, folks to climb, Christian-like, to the top, flag on the moon. Perhaps a cross will be placed here, and the earth will bleed. Here, this place, pillow of chamomile, old cat meowing, rubbing against my leg, animals and their old souls, Sonia. The Sephardic cemeteries of Manhattan, the lower half, lower majority, Spic and Jew, Arab and African, Orientals, Black power, Mizrahim, Kolma, all the places my grandfather is not buried. I have never been to a grave of my own people. Kolmar, to fill to the brim, Kolma, a place that is filled with spirits. Not all the bodies removed. Poltergeist, a ghost that crashes about, is not quiet or happy, trapped. El Presidio. There are places where nothing grows. We build houses there. If only we knew the right prayers to say, songs to sing, but none of us speak the language anymore. A Chicano poet keeps on referring to my people in the past tense. He's drunk. Golomar, to use up one's patience, to fulfill one's destiny, to live one's dreams, to receive positive attention, to be showered with affection, to be an object of pride, for dying. Colmado, a grocery store, a place where things can be bought, or a place where things are sold, bodies, blocks, blood. Colmatacion, silting. The way a river is filled, the way water is slowed and things settle out, become clear, less muddy, the way stone is made, or story. If you were small, I would wrap you in this blanket. I only have a piece of it now as you do, pox-free and brown. It is enough to keep us warm and remind us of home. You were born into it, and I am now part of your weave. I would send you clippings from my garden, but I have none. Or to send you chipped brick. Strawberries were the first of the season. I love to eat them, and so do the rabbits. Something cool that replaces the fire, water, ash, or mud. Some may think that nothing dwells here, no seed left intact, but we have always looked with more than the naked eye into the cracked crevices of the body. The pollen is on our faces, we are flowers kissing. We need not their machines to see beauty, no harmony, know the inner workings of the soil and soul and earth. I greet you on the horizon, we bloom, our sweetness is everywhere. You greet me with bits of green in your teeth, the one place they didn't think to look, Tia.
Thank you, Rasha. Our next poet is going to be Sarah Browning. Sarah is the co-founder and executive director of SplitThisRock. She is also an associate fellow of the Institute for Policy Studies and the author of Whiskey in the Garden of Eden and the co-editor of Decent Poets Against the War. Sarah has received artist fellowships from the DC Commission on the Arts and Humanities and has also won the People Before Profits Poetry Prize. She's the co-host of Sunday Kind of Love poetry series here at Busboys and Poets, and she has previously worked supporting socially engaged women, artists, and done creative writing workshops with low-income women and youth. So if everybody can please give a big welcome to Sarah Brown.
Thank you, Ellen, and to all of you for coming out tonight. A special thank you to Americans for Democracy and Human Rights in Bahrain for inviting SplitThisRock to partner on this great event, and to Busboys and Poets for this beautiful space for sponsoring our event tonight. Let's give it up for Busboys and for our servers tonight who worked so hard in this space. I urge you to tip generously. They work very hard, servers here. SplitThisRock is an organization that cultivates, teaches, and celebrates poetry that bears witness to injustice and provokes change. Precisely the kind of poetry we're hearing tonight. Precisely the kind of poetry so essential in our movements for social justice, in our daily lives, in our hearts. I think we've had evidence of that tonight. We are very proud to present SplitThisRock Poetry Festival every 2 years. The next one is in April of 2016. And we have gorgeous postcards that you can spread around everywhere or stick up on your fridge to remind you of those dates. Please join us. There's nothing like it anywhere in the country at the intersection of poetry and social justice. 4 days of readings and workshops and panels and conversations and activism and youth voices. And my colleague Tiana has postcards there on the table. Also, if you sign up on the listserv there, you'll get notices of upcoming events, and you'll get a poem every week in your inbox, including that poem by Lisa Suhair Majaj that Rasha so beautifully read, was a poem of the week early on when we first started this series. We are also very proud to partner on a project this winter called Al-Mutanabi Street Starts Here, DC 2016. And Helen Frederick, the organizer of that event, is here. And so Helen, wave to the nice people. Al-Mutanabi Street Starts Here is a project that has been ongoing for 9 years now, since Al-Mutanabi Street, which is the book-selling street in Baghdad, and really often the only place in Iraq where people could come together and share unpopular ideas, books in translation, ideas from all over, cafes, booksellers. It was bombed by a car bombing in 2007, and many of the businesses were destroyed and 30 people were killed. A bookseller here in the United States named Bobo Saleh started this project as a project of friendship and solidarity. And it began with an anthology and has grown to visual art, stunning visual art and poetry. And all of the artworks are going to be on display at a variety of settings throughout the Washington, D.C. area, January through March of 2016. And SplitThisRock and the Corcoran and D.C. Area Translator Network and George Mason are putting on a huge literary festival to coincide with the visual arts. And we have a beautiful flyer here that just is a kind of, save the date sort of flyer for that event. And poets from throughout the Middle East will be coming and reading, both in Arabic and in English. And we'll also be translating and honoring the translators who are bringing this great work to English-speaking readers. And Kareem James Abu Zaid was the translator of the poem that Zein read from the poet that we are honoring tonight. And Kareem will be coming here for Al-Mutanabi Street Starts Here because he's the translator of a recent book by Dunya Mikhael a marvelous Iraqi poet who will also be here. And her recent book is called The Iraqi Nights, and the two of them will be both presenting and having conversation about translation and that beautiful art. And Kareem will also be giving a workshop. So if you're interested in trying your hand at translation, now's the time. I've never done it, so I'm excited to try it myself. And so sign up on the listserv and you'll get more about it. We also have beautiful t-shirts, and that's my propaganda. Thank you for your patience. Shameless plug. No, but it's really fabulous to see you here. And there are a lot of folks here that I don't know, so I hope you'll find out more about SplitThisRock and Americans for Democracy and Human Rights in Bahrain. SplitThisRock has its origins in DC Poets Against the War, which was part of the international uprising of poets and of so many throughout the globe against the incredibly criminal and misguided invasion by the United States of the people of Iraq. So I have a couple of poems from that time that I'm going to read, and then a couple more recent ones. The Final Talk, in memory of TV anchor Raida Wazan, whose body was found dumped on a Mosul street, February 26, 2005. The bent heads of daffodils mark the neighborhood this early spring, along the banks of Rock Creek and in the produce section of the Safeway. I may not stop this war, but I can keep on telling the story of war. The Iraqi journalist abducted with her 10-year-old son, the boy released 2 days before the neighbors found her body. I imagine that final talk, mother and son, how she bends to him, knowing it will be the last time she breathes the back of her son's neck, its willow reach. I listen for her words, how they speak the smooth pebble of love, try to teach him memory and warm bread in the one day before the boy walks away from the Jeep and into the pages of the newspapers. I decide to forgive spring its coming, despite despair, despite the artificial limbs proliferating up the street at Walter Reed. The limbs may stink of new rubber, the city of its guilt, plotting the moment when the mother must finally let go her son's hand. But I can sing in the mud, hold my own son. I can know he will come back to me. Thank you. Of course, our own country is guilty of incredible repression as well. And this poem is in the spirit of Zein's poem, How Poetry Will Not Be Denied, no matter how deprived. In Guantanamo, a man composes a poem pressing his thumbnail into the white permanence of his styrofoam cup. Arabic script of praise song, of lament, circling the cup of our disdain. Hail the cup, singing its squeaky dirge in the land of our cast-offs. Hail the poet's nail, thumb, muscle, and hail his nerve. Thank you. And sometimes censorship comes in the way in which information is packaged and passed on to us. And this poem is called Headline, 6 Killed in Raid. It has a quote to start. 6 American soldiers and an Iraqi interpreter killed in booby-trapped house, Washington Post. fourth paragraph of the story. 7. The Iraqi interpreter lent his tongue, teeth, the tender upper ridges of his mouth to the Americans. We won't know his name, his burying place, the tea he drank, his daughter, the shoes he wore. I used to believe the secret of 7 was its spike and splendor. Thank you. And this is the poem that appeared in the anthology, that appears in the anthology Al-Ajami Street Starts Here, which was the first part of that phenomenal project. And it's called Girls in Red on page 1. Still clouded with sleep, I retrieve the paper from the porch. So often children on page 1 are laughing, learning new rhythms of Brazilian capoeira, tipped in red sashes, one against another, or rolling Easter eggs on the White House lawn. In that slow-drawn moment of waking, as I scan the post in the hallway, I think these girls too are in that open red joy only children know. But no, it's a Baghdad city block. Schoolgirls torn, their faces open, not laughing, but gashed, open. What idea, what God, what future, what temple, what word is worth these girls? Tell me this morning in my red bathrobe, how will we answer these girls? Thank you.
Thank you, sir. All right, our last poem of the evening is Amin Law. Amin is a nationally touring performance poet who looks to connect his Palestinian roots and American upbringing through his art. He is the co-founder of the Poetry for Gaza benefit show and is the current DC Grand Slam champion and 3-time member of the DC Beltway Slam team. He has performed at multiple colleges, including the University of Maryland. So if everybody could please welcome Amin Law.
So glad everyone could be here today. I'm gonna ramble a bit. I don't have a lot of poems, so I'm just gonna talk a little bit. Before I do that, because I may ramble, I just want to start off with one of my favorite poems from a poet you guys may have heard of. Mohammed, and just there, I just think of situations where people who are artists a lot of times are jailed because we're the catalyst for any type of progressive change. And just thinking of Mohammed being the type of guy who wrote the Palestinian Declaration of Independence is pretty epic. So just wanted to say that. I'm gonna do this poem. We journey towards a home not of our flesh. Its chestnut trees are not of our bones. Its rocks are not like goats in the mountain hymn. The pebbles' eyes are not lilies. We journey towards a home that does not halo our heads with a special sun. Mythical women applaud us, a sea for us, a sea against us. When water and wheat are not at hand, eat our love and drink our tears. There are mourning scarves for poets. A row of marble statues will lift our voice, and an urn to keep the dust of time away from our souls. Roses for us and against us. You have your glory. We have ours. Of our home we only see only the unseen. Our mystery. Glory is ours. A throne carried on feet torn by roads that lead to every home but our own. The soul must recognize itself, must recognize its very soul, or die here. really an honor to be here. I hope you guys didn't put me at the end because you thought I was going to be like one of the better poets. Probably not. I would assume that y'all put me last because y'all assume everyone will be like trying to get up and eat some more falafel and cookies and everyone will be talking and whatever. So I'm just saying thank y'all for letting me be here. This is the rambling part. I really resonated with being here today for two reasons. The first reason is I'm really into telling my story, my own story, and I realize that there are many other stories out there. And then sometimes, because there are so many stories out there, we tend to tell other people's stories. But I'm not really into telling other people's stories. I like to give them a platform to tell their own story. And I've termed it as Macklemoring. I may like Macklemore, and that's cool if you do. But I'm not down with like taking other people's like identities and trying to like show them, you know what I mean, and co-opting that struggle, not for that. So just the fact that we can have a poet like be showcased, and we're up here like in solidarity, like doing poems that we would not allow to be doing in like other places because of that. So I'm glad we gave this poet a platform. The second reason is, see if I can give an antidote here. I am like really into like not eating meat. And I'm sort of like that guy who's pretty annoying. Like, oh, you're eating a hamburger? Let me tell you why you're killing the environment. Also, if you're eating meat, you're killing the environment. But talk to me if you want to know more information. But I was talking to my sister, I think, and I was asking her like, oh, you know, I would love if you could give up meat. And she's been trying to give up meat. And I forget what she said. She's like, well, I love, you know, I can give up meat, but I love kebabs too much. Like, I could never give up kebabs. I would die. And I was thinking about, like, that's, of course, like, sort of ridiculous, right? You wouldn't die. But I was thinking about the things that I wouldn't, like, couldn't live without.
Cheese.
And cheese is one of them. Was number one, clearly on the list. But going down that list, you can really cut everything out. Like, seriously, I could probably eat porridge every day for the rest of my life and be sane. What I couldn't do is stop enjoying and doing art. And I can stab and clap for that. And there's times where, like, the other thing I couldn't do is stop being moved. Like, being moved is, like, my favorite thing in the world to be. And I think I like being moved because it takes us into an emotional place that we've yet been before. That's why something is moving. And just having that feeling and realizing that there's emotions that I have not felt yet. I don't know what it even feels like to not be able to do my art. And just thinking of that emotion is debilitating for me. So that's why I wanted to be here. Also, to just appreciate like amazing people doing amazing work, which happens all around the world. I'm really into this thing of like freedom for everybody. I know some people are into freedom for some people or most people, but like, oh, we don't like this kind of people, we don't like this kind of people. I'm pretty much freedom for everybody. So if y'all are freedom for everybody, can I hear you like snap your fingers okay? Cool. Because if you're not, like, you should just, I mean, it's cool that you can exist, you know what I'm saying? But like, you shouldn't be in this room. Everybody in here should be like freedom for everybody. So, I have two poems I'm gonna read quickly, and then I'm gonna do a poem because I'm a spoken word performer, so it's kind of a show. But before I do that, I just wanted to read two quick poems. One sort of relevant, one maybe not that relevant. But my dad is a pretty big influence in my life, and his anniversary of his passing is coming up in about a week and a half. And he just really gave me a lot of pride for. I'm a quarter Palestinian, a quarter Egyptian. He's half Palestinian, half Egyptian. And just like having that, I think, identity and understanding of self is something that I've enjoyed doing for this last, I don't give my age, but just that many years has been really happiness. And I just wanted to like give a shout out to my dad because my dad is the truth. And my friend was saying the other day, like her mom wasn't in the room, and she was like, "Oh, my mom's not here. I mean, she's not in the room. She's alive." You know what I mean? I was like, "Oh, that's funny." And when I was thinking of it, I was like, "Oh, yeah, my dad's not here. I mean, he is in the room, but he's not alive." So this is a poem that is like about him and me, and it's short. And if you like it, you like nod your head and be like, "Oh yeah," like just do that. Okay. Here we go. I run down the long escalator steps, just like my dad did. I smile with my mouth closed, just like my dad did. I watch closely and demonstratively when people eat my cooking and go, meh, meh, just like my dad did. I give wet cheek kisses unapologetically to my little cousins, just like my dad did. I loosen my tie way too early during the gala, just like my dad did. I stuff the crumpled $10 bill into my pocket, push it to the bottom like kids do when it's too cold to take out the trash, just like my dad did. There are moments where everything I know is hanging by a thread, where I have the urge to remember what direction the moss grows, to reset and be in a place where they mispronounce my name again. But I stay, despite what my heart tells me, just like my dad did. I didn't listen to my dad, just like my dad did. I draw all my hearts with protractors, just like my dad did. I cry on the train when I look at 3 voicemails from my sister and I'm too embarrassed to call her back, scared of the raspy vigor in her voice, the one she got from our grandmother, the one she learned from searching late nights for men like my father, just like my dad did. One day, I'm gonna die too soon, hopefully in the arms of my son, the one that's like me, and leave a legacy of closed-mouth smiles, just like my dad did. I'm gonna do a very short poem and then do like a spoken word piece and close it out. Thank you guys so much for coming. There's more information I'm learning about this as I go, but just really glad when folks come together and do something for somebody else that's like not in the room. I just like had a lot of love in the last couple of days. That's why I'm a little bit emotional up here. But it just means so much to me when like people are together. You know, when we all could be home right now watching Netflix. There's so many good shows on Netflix. So I know that if you're here, like you want to be here. Because you all could be watching Narcos. And the thing about it is, some of y'all laughing because you don't know what Narcos is. Yo, you should definitely watch Narcos. Definitely. That's not really a great introduction to this poem. But I did this thing, right? So, us spoken word folks and poets maybe also of all ilks. During National Poetry Month in April, we do something called 30 for 30. We try to write 30 poems in 30 days. And that is very difficult, but you push through it because writing is a muscle. And to get better at writing, we have to get stronger, even if no one sees us shooting in the gym. But what's interesting is that at that time, me and my at that time girlfriend were both poets. We were both writing poems, 30 for 30. And she broke up with me halfway through that process. So you can tell the first like 15 poems are very different than the last 15 poems. But during that, I just was talking to one of my friends who was born in Liberia, and just like I feel like a lot of times, not to tell like someone else's story, you know what I'm saying, but I realized that like even though homies have like gone through like privilege in their life, like there's certain things that like you will never have privilege for, you know what I mean, and just this like a traumatic experience that like homies go through, like you'll never get rid of a traumatic experience. I just listened to him one day and I wrote a poem that day because like it's so difficult to write 30 poems in a month, so you get whatever like inspiration you can. So it's a very quick poem. 9-year-olds with metal adjudicators strapped to their shoulders, propped up on a canvas for the white folks to discuss, to ask if it's surrealism or abstract, making sure never to actually touch the art, having dreams of driving a bulletproof 745i with blood-red interiors and amazing sound, waving at all the kids begging for headphones and a way out, dead men walking, spending all their casket money on European designers and gold watches that don't tell time. I like this poem. It makes me feel superficial, but I'm not used to it, so I'm gonna move it out of the way. This poem, I think it's an air conditioning. I'm just gonna rock with it. And like this thing is like applause. I like a little bit of applause at all moments. But like I said, I've like really come to appreciate my identity, and I'm like always working towards that goal of finding out who I am, and I assume we all are. I used to go by, actually, the poem tells most of the story. Someone to do the poem, can we just give a round of applause for everyone who helped put this together and just. And just listening, just to Sarah talk about things in the media and how things aren't and are reported. Just folks who are looking past that and seeing really important matters. I was watching, as I ramble continuously, but just bear with me here. I was watching the world news today, and on the world news it was like this woman who got shot, and it was just like a terrible thing, like someone gets shot and killed. But I just thought it was like she was just like a white woman, like that was like, you know, somewhere in like middle America, and I just thought that like that's not world news, and that's a tragic story, and I wish that on nobody. I just see like a lot of times we're like paying attention to the wrong things, and as we all try to learn and fight through that process, I just want to applaud the folks who are fighting through that process and are seeing the real struggles and the real stories, and like that means a lot to me. And I know all these people up here, all these people who have been in similar situations like this poet and others, like that's very important for us. And like thank you guys for recognizing that and fighting, because it's like not easy work, and it's also like not like thankful work. So thank you. Give them a round of applause, please. Want me to get out my chest? Here's a poem about my name. If you like it, you can snap your fingers. You can say, you can say, go in, poet. You can say, yes. You can say, Jesus. You can, it's just whatever you want to do. If you enjoy it, you know what I mean? Some of y'all know it. What I'm saying is I'm going to give you guys energy. If you feel it necessary to reciprocate that energy, please do. Because I need it. I'm about to get something to drink and enjoy probably another cookie after this is finished. Here's a poem. I know I promised it like 30 seconds ago, but here we go. My name is Amin. Everyone calls me Drew. See, Amin, it means trustworthy. Nobody calls me Amin. I'm often asked why I don't go by my given name. My answer, usually clumsy and underwhelming, a sort of snowball made of desert sand. In 2008, 2 years after my father passed away, I went to visit his family in Jordan. I saw some of them like Hiba and Dalia and Naida and Naila for the very first time, and they were very interested in this new moniker of Drew I was going by. Who is Drew? Where is he from? He's not getting any of my tabbouleh. My laugh after that is always a little too awkward. One morning, I went to the grocery store with my grandfather, a proud man who shares my first name but wears his like the Kuwaiti war medals he keeps on the top shelf next to his Quran. Before we entered the store, he slipped a Palestinian flag into my back pocket. And as we picked over figs in the produce section, a man approached me, saw the flag in my pocket, and asked if I was Palestinian. My response, Amriki, shway Arabiya. There goes that awkward laugh again. When I got home, my grandfather pulled me to the side, looked at me in a way that only military men can, and said, "You, Amin, are the son of my son, the bearer of my first name. You are Palestinian. So welcome to Palestine. Sometimes we bury our children here, where the light at the end of the tunnel is usually a checkpoint, where we have no statues, no land to bury them on. I will not lie to you. Some of our people would rather avenge their fathers than raise their sons. We are clumped and uneven like the soil we wish to have back. There will be people that will mock you and say they have stolen your holy land. But I mean, it is called holy land. If we believe God is inside all of us and we walk with our souls, then truly all the ground we touch is holy. So I pray for the morning I wake up and nobody has a war story. All of my medals have been turned to dust. This is for my grandfather, who died earlier this year and will never hear this poem. For my great-grandmother, who would speak to me for hours, knowing I did not understand a lick of Arabic. And all of my cousins, who only know me by my grandfather's name, this is my coming out party. Hi, my name is Amin Andrew Amjad Dalal, named after both of my grandfathers, holding up my family tree like an iron hammock. I know my flesh is of a half-breed, but my soul is a man from Naples with a West Bank backbone and a craving for cooked yogurt and pine nuts. I know now And your language is mine. Your pain is mine, and your fight is mine. So to the man in the grocery store, I am Palestinian. My name is Amin. Means trustworthy. You can call me Amin.
Everybody for coming out tonight. Thank you to all the poets for reading. If you guys want to learn anything else about Al-Ajami or ADHRB or SplitThisRock, there's some literature tables over there, and if there's any food left back in the corner, feel free to go check. Thank you guys.
All right, y'all. Hope you enjoyed it. Thanks for watching. We done.